We are tracking not one, not two, not three, but six potential storms over the next couple of weeks. What's going on, guys? Certified meteorologist Jonathan Kagas back with you. It's about to get active, friends, especially across the northern tier of the country. We're going to get in depth with all of these and then talk about the potential and likely polar vortex split, which should send more cold back in by the end of February. If you want to stay up to date on all that stuff without the nonsense that's on social media, hit that subscribe button. We love to have you on board. Do me a favor, post in the comment section where you're tuning in from and what the weather is currently doing at that location. So we're going to hop right into it now. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to join the best weather community on YouTube. Okay, so we're looking at the European model, and this is going to be a broad overview here. We're going to get a little more in depth to the Pacific Northwest and into the Northeast, where ice and even thunder ice is going to be possible. We'll break down what that is in just one second. But here is just a kind of a broad thing. I just want to take you out to the different storms that we have. The first one moving through the upper Midwest and into the Northeast. This is going to be Thursday into Friday, so the 5th and the 6th, and then bleeding into the 7th. And then here's number 2, more snow and ice into New England. And then here's number 3, another round of snowy and icy weather into New England, also across the upper Midwest and northern plains. There's number 4, there's number 5, and then there we go with number 6, with a couple of pieces of energy coming together. Now, the question is going to be for our friends along the 95 corridor that want snow, will it come together enough to play with some of the colder air that's involved? We're going to get into all of that as well. We are in a big time snow drought. That is a very thick marker. Let me change the size here. We're in a very big snow drought into parts of the upper Midwest, northern plains, Omaha. We have like an inch of snow so far this season. I think we're going to change that in a big way over the next couple of weeks at the middle of February. But we're going to start with this main one here, this first round, and this is going to be Thursday in the morning. So that's going to be 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 a.m. Some snow and ice start to get going as far north as Detroit, into Indianapolis, Toledo, Columbus, just north of Pittsburgh, closer to Erie, and then central Pennsylvania, potentially a full-on ice storm going on. That continues to work up into New England, and where it likely will be mostly snow, the northern half of Vermont, New Hampshire, into Maine before it eventually gets into New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and then exits out through the Canadian Maritimes. Then storm number 2 comes. This one's already going to be by the weekend. This is going to be Saturday afternoon. It's a little bit colder to work with. Still looks like a wintry mix, mainly ice in Detroit. But boy, we have some heavy, heavy snow into parts of the Twin Cities of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and then that continues to work its way east. Super active pattern coming down the pipeline, and we're going to go in order here, and we're going to talk about the ice accumulation first. So this is going to be from Thursday the 6th into Friday the 7th. And you see here some of these numbers, and this is going to be the ice accumulation on things like power lines. So we could be dealing with some power issues as far to the south as maybe Columbus, Ohio, just to the north of Pittsburgh, maybe an icy glaze, 1/10 of an inch potentially of ice there. But certainly the more concerning portion of this system going to be closer towards State College, Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, just to the north of Philly. Right around Erie, Pennsylvania, again, south of Buffalo, where you see that bright pink shaded areas, anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch of ice going to be likely in that area. Now, I mentioned earlier about thunder ice. Essentially, it's the same deal as thunder snow. You may have heard that, where you have some instability while it's snowing, and then you get that clap of thunder. Same kind of deal here. I want to show you the lightning density model. And you see that blue there, especially the darker blue. There's an indication there that we might have enough instability above the surface that we might be able to take advantage of that. And while we have freezing rain going on, we could hear a clap or two of thunder, especially in northern Virginia, Maryland, southern Pennsylvania with this. So pretty dynamic storm system sliding through. Don't be surprised if, while again, you're getting that freezing rain and that ice, we have some thunder, freezing rain going on, or some thunder ice. So that's going to be the deal with the one coming first and foremost. So we're going to give a little more detail for each one of these things as they get closer in time, with that first impactful storm coming again Thursday into Friday, working out of the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and into the Northeast. worried about that one first, but I wanted to show you just a general deal here. Mentioned before about the big time snow drought that we have really in this area. Again, we still have more snow, not on the ground anymore, it's completely gone, but we have received more snow this season along the North Gulf Coast than we have in places like Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Dakotas, Nebraska, Alaska, even. It's been a really wonky winter. This is going to be winter's revenge, I think, for the upper Midwest, Northern Plains. Sure, we've had the cold, but I think it's time for the snow now. All right, I'm going to stop rambling. And I just want to kind of show you again, this is just a rough placement. So with storm number one, here is kind of the footprint of the snow. A couple of inches around the Twin Cities towards Duluth. And again, this is from that Wednesday to Thursday deal. It's going to be obviously starting earlier the further west you are. Maybe a few flakes in Detroit, but still, this first one's mainly going to be an icy glaze. UP and Michigan going to get some snow, and then several inches of snow, maybe up to 4 or 5 inches of snow into places like interior Maine, upstate New York, into Maine, interior Massachusetts, I should say, and then that will continue. So let's take this out further. This is going to be storm two, and again, this is all going to be on top of each other. So it's not an additional where you see the bright purple start, and purple starts that 6-inch category, and then once you start getting into pink, it's 9 inches, and then once you start seeing blue, the light teal kind of color. Let me bring out the telestrator again and point to the legend. That's where you're starting to talk about 20 inches. So again, this is adding each and every storm. So you see good snow. We're well north of 20 inches there into the Sierra Nevada, parts of the Cascades as well. Let's turn off the telestration and go forward. And then we have the third one, and this is the one that could bring snow a little bit further south. Of course, we talked about that mix being there for parts of the Mid-Atlantic Thursday into Friday. This is now going to be, we'll back up the timeline. This is going to be Tuesday into Wednesday. That's going to be the 11th into the 12th of February, maybe getting into the 13th as well. But certainly the potential in Northern Virginia, Maryland, including Washington, D.C., and then even New York, again, for that 6+ inches of snow. That could be the more significant one in terms of the snow for areas a little bit further south, the ones that get freezing rain and just a cold rain this time around. And then we have Storm 4. You see where it starts to come through. So places, again, like Omaha. Here we go. That could be one for us. Again, there's a little uncertainty as to where exactly that sets up, but one coming from west to east across the country could help us out with our snowfall deficit. Again, that purple representing 6 inches. Once you start getting into that pink, more like 9 inches. So another decent snowstorm coming down the pipeline. That's going to be for the 14th into the 15th. And then we have yet another one coming through. Could give a little bit of snow even as far south as Oklahoma and Texas. And you see it here. The snow already raging in parts of Montana, certainly in the mountains of Idaho, the Rockies. Good for skiing. It's been a while. We deserve this. But again, we could really erase some of the snow deficit, especially into the Twin Cities. We are way below normal. That even goes back to next year. So if you like the snow in the north, this is going to be the pattern for you. Now, a lot of talk about the polar vortex split. If you've been following this channel, and I hope you have, and if you're not, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button for me. A lot of talk about the polar vortex split. Remember, it's not an actual storm per se, so it's not coming to visit you. The polar vortex is a thing that is around all year round. It is something that is always there. It's more prevalent in the wintertime in the respective hemisphere. There's one in the North Pole, one in the South Pole. Oftentimes what happens is you'll get the stratosphere to warm suddenly. A sudden stratospheric warming event that disrupts the polar vortex. Back in January, where we had that Arctic outbreak, the polar vortex was stretched a little bit. It messed with the tropospheric polar jet stream, plunged that further south, and then we got that Arctic cold that helped to set the stage for the snow in Florida. This time around, we are looking way up, so 50 millibars. So we're in the stratosphere now, okay? So we're looking at the polar vortex. This is as of the 4th, February 4th. And you see here that already we do have some stretching going on. So you would characterize a very strong polar vortex as looking like being right on top of the pole, well defined. This right now is looking stretched, okay? So we already have something funky going on with it, but watch what happens as we go forward in time. We start to get a little bit of a separation there. So this is your typical polar vortex split. Watch what happens as we get further out. We have a complete separation. So this is going to be on Valentine's Day, 13th into 14th. We have a lobe of the polar vortex spilling over one side of Earth in the eastern hemisphere. And then the western hemisphere, it's spilling down as well towards the Hudson Bay. That's going to be the trigger mechanism for a likely blast of cold air. Now, relative to normal, it may be as intense, like 30 to 40 degrees below normal. However, we are now in February, and even though it's going to be very cold, we do start to warm things up beyond like the third week of January. So we do start to warm things up. The sun starts to get a little higher in the sky as well, which helps things out a little bit. So we're really breaking out of the climatological coldest part of winter. It's still going to be an intense blast of cold for our friends, especially in the Intermountain West, Northern Plains. We talked about this at length a couple of weeks ago. That a true La Nina pattern, like the atmosphere just remembered, hey, wait a minute, we're in a La Nina, let's start acting like it. And what I mean by that is your typical La Nina pattern, and it doesn't always work like this, but your typical La Nina pattern is very, very warm and dry in the deep south. Very, very cold and stormy, especially in the Pacific Northwest, Northern Plains, sometimes getting into the Great Lakes. That is a textbook La Nina setup getting through the second week of February. So, just for instance, I'm in Central Florida, the Orlando area. It's going to be in the low to mid 80s all week, where here, these temperature anomalies where you start to see that purple start showing up, we're maxing out the scale 30 to 40 degrees below normal. So if you're watching in Montana or the Dakotas, whatever your normal is supposed to be, just subtract 40 degrees. And that's what it is. Again, it is still frigid and brutal in parts of southern Canada into those areas of the upper Midwest, Northern Plains, Pacific Northwest. But nonetheless, that's what is likely coming through the next couple of weeks. It remains to be seen if we were to take this temperature anomaly as part of the European model. You see it get, look at that. I mean, it rolls right on through. So this is now February 14th into the 15th, big time cold through Minnesota. Again, down into Kansas, Oklahoma. There's the front itself. So maybe getting into Dallas as well. Watch, though, this time around, Florida kind of fends it off. The other calling card here, we have a nice big chunk of high pressure that's chilling right there, which is going to try to force everything up and over and protect Florida. So it remains to be seen if maybe that secondary push there, and there would be the cold front that's going to be on February 19th. And again, I should have put that earlier, but there is the timestamp right at the top. There is our cold front right there. We'll see if that ridge fends it off again. That is looking way into the future now. I mean, we're 2 weeks out right there, so a lot can change depending upon how strong that ridge of high pressure is over the Bahamas and Southwest Atlantic. Nonetheless, this is going to be a wild ride. This is likely going to be the most active point of winter to date. And again, I just want to show you the rolling. I mean, look at this. There's Storm 1. Ice in the mid-Atlantic, Northeast, some light to moderate snow from the Dakotas to Minnesota. That's Storm 1. Storm 2, there's the other kind of reinforcing shot. And then this could be the bigger one here. That's going to be the 12th through the 13th. The darker the blue there, the stronger, or the heavier the snow. Just looking at some things at surface level, high pressure here. It's going to work its way down the spine of the Appalachians. That's some cold air damming, as we call it. Could provide parts of the Northeast cold enough for snow. And again, there's another cell right there. You see the other H? So it's kind of really encompassing all of this. That is a good setup for snow in the Northeast. We're going to get more in depth with that one in another video. If you're interested in that, if you found this content helpful, please hit that thumbs up button. It really does help us out a lot. Also, share this with your friends and consider subscribing. Also, want to alert you to a new thing as we have as well. If you want to become a member, we now have the Just Weather Junkies. You can go in there, and if you want to become a member there, it's a small monthly fee to be able to comment on some things, to get content even earlier. So consider subscribing to that if you would like some of that stuff earlier and have more clout in some of the chats that we have. So consider doing that. As for us, we'll catch you back here again tomorrow, where we're going to talk much more about the polar vortex split. Have a great day, guys. Stay warm where it is freezing right now.